We will now interrupt your regularly scheduled programming for this Good Old Blades micro podcast.
Let's talk stippling. Now, what's interesting about stippling is that it has a lot of different presences or utilization in a lot of different art forms. Stippling exists in nature, and especially with plants, but basically you're taking smaller dots that represent a larger whole, and you can see that all the way back in the 1500s with printing. So printing presses and the way that stipple engraving was done is taking a bunch of very small dots to produce a gradient for images, especially prints of things like lithographs or whatever. And you can see it on artwork such as enameling or jars or paintings. You can see it in dot matrix with modern technology. You can see it in dithering, or images are turned from grayscale. Basically, when you dither something, it turns a gray gradient or shade into small black dots that are of various sizes and positions away from each other to make your eye think that there is shading going on. In jewelry, stippling is used. You could probably consider it the poor man's pavé. And pavé in jewelry is a French term that is basically, pavé means cobblestoning, where you take stones and set them in a way that it looks like a cobblestone path or road. And what you can use stippling for in jewelry making, and how this kind of relates into knife making, is to texturize a surface to give it contrast and something to make it look prettier, right? There's lots of ways to do stippling in metalworking. And one of the easier ways, other than doing it by hand, and I've done it both ways. I've used hand tools such as round punches and peening hammers, all the way to hammer hand tools and engravers. You can do a lot of different ways. Probably the least expensive way for the average knife maker is to look into a thing you can find on Amazon. It's called a turbine reciprocating grinder. And you can put different hand pieces in there, and it hooks up to your air compressor, and it has a stroking mechanism that in and out that allows you to use like an anvil or something in the end of the grinder to put small divots or textures into your bolsters, or you can do it into your knives while it's soft, or so on and so forth. Fordham and other flex shaft makers produce these hammer hand tools, which is a fairly similar mechanism where it's basically creating a short stroking action similar to an air graver that you can put a tool in and put the anvil piece in and make stippling patterns. There's lots of different stippling options out there. You find that again, when you're looking at artwork and things, you can find all sorts of different kinds of stippling. There's stippling that is done on the handles of guns to increase its grip. You can see stippling in scrimshaw and engraving, where those same patterns or gradients of shade are applied. It's done in artwork with ink and paper. There's so many applications. Basically, what I'm trying to get at is, if you want to provide an embellishment on a knife or some feature of a knife, stippling is a good way to do it. And I don't want to misrepresent stippling as it only related to jewelry or knives, because there's a lot of great ideas out there as to how to apply it to your blades by looking at other art forms that utilize it, and especially in the natural world. It really requires you to do a little bit of research on stippling and look at different images, different art forms, the history of it, and then figure out how can you apply that to your knives. I think it looks really cool on bolsters. Bolster material typically is a little bit softer, so it takes stippling easier. You can apply it to blades the same way as I mentioned about doing jeweling, so like on the flats of your blades or whatever, but you'll have to remember that either you have to use some form of carbide tooling to stipple in, which you can get, or you have to do it when the blade is soft. The only thing you have to remember about stippling with carbide is that carbide is actually it chips off and fractures, and so sometimes if your blade is hard enough, it could cause repeated fracturing inside of your carbide, and then it'll chip off and it can cause some type of hazards. So just be careful of those things. The good thing about hammer hand tools and the turbine reciprocating grinder is you're looking at a price range between $60 on Amazon to about $180 or $190 for the flex shaft version from Fordham. And you can even modify or make your own tools to go into the hammer hand piece to perform different type of stippling operations. So there's lots of different texture options that you have. You can make big divots, like similar to what you would achieve in a larger ball peen or peening hammer. You can do small stippling, like very, very fine stippling that makes it look more like it's been sandblasted or media blasted in some way. So again, lots of options. It's a really cool embellishment. I think it definitely warrants looking into, and I hope that helps.